Hey everybody, and welcome back to the British and Irish Quidditch League here at the Ministry for Fantastical Game and Sports. I'm your host Ezeco, and we're just checking in here with Season 1 of the British and Irish Quidditch League. This is a simulated Quidditch League that we play on Discord and Google Sheets, working on getting a little bit better of an interface than Google Sheets. But if you're interested in Quidditch, if you're interested in sports management games, this is, in my opinion, might be a little biased, a great game to get into, especially since there's not very many, if any, other uh, Quidditch leagues out there that you can take your own team and manage it all the way to try and get the British and Irish Quidditch League Cup, which is what we are in the middle of. We've just finished week 19. We're getting ready to kick off the final few weeks here of the season. Game 20 is coming up with just 6 games left in the season for all of our 13 teams here in the league. This is just a quick overview of the map again and all the teams that we have. Again, 13 teams representing the British Isles in both Britain and Ireland. And it's been a pretty interesting season with some ups and downs. We've had some teams start off really strong and then kind of taper off. Some teams really struggle, and some teams surge up into prominence. Some of that has to do with learning the system, making the proper moves. Some of that has to do with actually fixing the system throughout the season. So, um, a lot of people could consider rightfully that this season has a bit of an asterisk because there was some changes to the engine in the middle of the season where we had to fix some things that just weren't working correctly at all, and that's my fault as the developer. But we've got it fixed. We're looking strong. Everything's going well now, and everybody seems to be having pretty good time with it. They haven't told me they haven't. So let's go ahead and check in with what's going on now. With our 13 teams, right now leading the pack is the Pride of Portree up in Scotland. They've played 18 games of their schedule, so they will be finishing out every single game day with a game here from here on out. They're 15-3, so they are leading the league at the top of the table right now with 45 points. Puddlemere United right behind them at 13-6 with 19 games played, 39 points, and Appleby right behind them um, with 12-7 record as well. Down at the bottom, Wigtown has had a huge struggle all season. They're only 5-13 on the season. Now they've made some moves recently that should get them into a much better situation. We've seen their chaser game get a lot better here in the last few games with some moves that the manager has made over there. The Falmouth Falcons have had a very topsy turvy season. They spent most of it right in the middle of the board, but they had a stretch in the middle where um, their manager kind of disappeared on them. They had some injuries that they contend with, and their roster wasn't set up correctly. They had some salary cap issues, and so they lost some points. They had to forfeit some games, so they're down to 6-12 with only 15 points after the penalty deductions on the salary cap issues. Wimburn, a team I've really watched all season, is doing okay. 10th in the league at 8-11 with 24 points, so they're really tied for eighth. Um, I kind of wanted to see them more in the middle of the table, if not towards the top half, and I thought they could get there. And they really are in the middle of the table when we consider that they are tied for eighth with Tutsill and Montrose, but they're really just seeming to struggle with the seeker game, and that's really the story with all these teams in the bottom half. Is mostly their issues come down to their seeker game. Um, they can compete in the chaser game, but once the seekers come into play, they really struggle being able to get to the snitch and snatch it. Hollyhead started off the season amazingly strong. They were scoring points left and right. They led the table for a long time, and now they are down in seventh at 9-10. Just hit a losing record on the season. Some of that has to do with the engine fixes that we talked about, and some of that just has to do with they're not quite as strong as we thought they were going to be. Chudley is doing a little bit better than what some of you who pay attention to Cannon might be expected. 6 on the table at 9-9. That's good. If you are a Chudley fan just from the books or uh, the fandom at all, you might expect to see Chudley down all the way at the bottom. They're sitting pretty good at 6 there. And then Kinmare has been a thorn in the side for most teams. They're 10-8, doing well enough to keep you on your toes about them. It's not a team you really want to play. Ballycastle is the same way. Um, they're not exactly threatening for the league title, I would say, but they're not a team that you want to see on your schedule here towards the end. So this is what the table looks like right now, with just 6 games to go, and things could get interesting. Portry's really sat at the top for a long time now. I don't think that anybody's going to be able to usurp them. But just to take a quick closer look at that, for the cup race, Portree is in first. They've only played 18 games, so they have 6 games. They'll play every game left. And they are currently ahead of Puddlemere, who's their next contender by 6 points. They're ahead by 2 wins. Puddlemere will have a bye at some point here at the end of the season, as will Appleby. So there's a chance for them to get up to it, but it's going to be a struggle because Portree has just looked so dominant the last few weeks. I want to say all 3 of their losses came at the beginning of the season. Maybe one of those losses came here at the second half, but it has been really just all Portree the entire time. Now Appleby, you'll see, has a little bit of a odd situation with their points as well. With 12 wins, they only have 35 points. Remember, one win is worth 3 points. And now Appleby did have a single instance of a salary cap issue as well, so they were deducted 1 point. It makes it interesting for them because if they do end up getting tied with Puddlemere in wins, which they were for a while, they will have an issue where they will be sent down to third place just because of that 1 point penalty. Now, Ballycastle's still technically in the mix, so is Kinmare. Ballycastle behind by 12 points, Kinmare behind by 15. But unless Portree were to lose every single one of their games from here on out, I don't see Ballycastle or Kinmare really threatening to get to the BIQL Cup there. It's really going to come down to Portree, Puddlemere, and Appleby, and it's probably just Portree and Puddlemere. Puddlemere is really the only team that has a chance at all right now, but it's probably going to be Portree at this point. But they haven't locked it in yet. They've still got to win the games that are in front of them. So that's the BIQL Cup race, which is the league cup race, for who's won the league with the most wins. Now, some of you are paying attention to Ken. You're like, hey, but that's not how they play. We have created a second trophy, which is called the Golden Broom Race. This is for the team who scores the most points on the season, which is how the cup is awarded in Canon. We've created 2 different cups. The BIQL Cup is the one who's won the league with the most points, the most wins. The Golden Broom is for the team who has scored the most points. Now, currently leading that race is Appleby, who sits in third in the League Cup race, but they have scored the most points of any team. They've scored 520 points more than Portree, who's sitting at third. And they just recently, in the last 2 or 3 games, overtook Holyhead, who, thanks to a really, really strong start to the season, came out of the gates just absolutely blazing points. And they're sitting at second with 6,500. They held on to that for a really long time. So I'm not trying to dismiss what they did at the beginning of the season, saying that it was just kind of, the sim was broken and they took advantage of that. they are still a really good team. They score a lot of points. That situation I'm talking about only happened for a game or two. They were able to maintain that for a long time, but they have struggled down the stretch, which is why they've fallen behind in the Golden Broom race here. Portree has threatened it for a long time as they've surged in the second half. Ballycastle and Puddlemere are also not too far behind. Um, so it's mostly the same players here that we're dealing with on the League Cup race, but a totally different order. So you have two things to kind of chase here. You can chase the League Cup, or you can chase the Golden Broom, whichever you're really interested in, whichever one's more valuable to you, and it just makes it more of an interesting touch to how you want to play the game. So Applebee's leading that Golden Broom right now. They're up 390 points on Hollyhead. They're up 520 on Portree. Ballycastle and Puddlemill probably don't have a chance at this at all. Um, Hollyhead still, of course, is in a very threatening position because 390 points is just a single game. That takes nothing, especially if they were to play Appleby here at the end of the season. And Portree only behind by 520, same situation. If you were to play here towards the end of the season, it's very easy to get 520 points in a game and shut down the other team. So this race is, in my mind, much closer than the BIQL League Cup race because this can change on the whim of a single game, even two. And it's a fascinating race to watch right now. Especially like we said, Hollyhead is right there, and they are a technically losing record team at this point. So that's how we're looking with 19 games down in the season. We've got 6 more to go, but it's time to start thinking about what's coming up next. Of course, we're going to be having season 2. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody here. There may be some cheers. There may be some, oh, I can't believe you still doing it. We are going to have season 2. With season 2 will be coming the Quidditch World Cup. I touched about this before. Every player has a nationality as well as some other things, but they have a nationality. We will be taking volunteers to take over national teams for all the nationalities that are represented, which I believe is 16 nationalities. Should be an even number so that we can have a World Cup. You'll be able to take over that team, select the players you want for your national team, and go for the Quidditch World Cup itself. I also plan to improve the user experience. We had a lot of talk about this um, as we've gone through the season, things we can do to improve. I aim to make the economics of this game a lot closer to something like the English Premier League in soccer or association football, as opposed to where it is now, which kind of sits more at a MLB or no, not MLB. I'm sorry, NBA slash NFL type deal with a salary cap and contracts and contract limits and all that kind of stuff. I aim to make it either more like English Premier League with the transfer windows and those kinds of contracts, or there is a potential that if I were to get something specific working, we'd be dealing with a different Quidditch League game that I played almost a decade ago now, where teams would get uh, a set of funds based on their prestige, which was based on how many wins they had, based on the size of their stadium. And if you won the game, you got more. You were able to select sponsor, all these sorts of things. So you would get funds per game and you would spend those on your players' contracts. That would determine how you got players. That is something I'll be looking at. And if that fails, like I said, we'll be aiming more towards the Premier League type deal. Another thing we could potentially be looking at is the question of more teams. Right now, we're sitting at the canon 13 teams. Makes it a little bit of an odd structure. Some could contend. So we could potentially be looking at bumping that up to about 20. That also opens up more management opportunities because this league is currently every team is managed, which is amazing. I love that everybody is paying attention. They are interested in their teams. We have every single team managed, but that also means that there's no room for anybody else to come in. Um, if you were to come in now, I'm like, hey, I'm interested in Quidditch. Hey, sorry, they're all full. Maybe you could help out somebody else, but there's not a team for you to take. I'd like to increase that more. So either by adding more teams to the league or creating a sub league, and implementing a promotion relegation system. Not sure how we'll or which one we're going to pick, or what direction we're going to go in. We may even do both, where we expand the league and then add a promotion relegation system with a sub league the year after. I don't know. It's a discussion I'd like to have on Discord. So if you're interested in getting in on those discussions, if you're interested in the future of the league and potentially taking over your own team, head on over to our Discord. The link's right there. The link's also going to be in the biography. We're getting ready to finish season one. Season two will kick off not long thereafter. There's not a ton of improvements that need to be made to the engine at this time, so the layover period is going to be a lot shorter than some of the other games that we play on the server. There just will be some things that we do to improve the league itself and the user experience. Something to make you interested in coming back every day. Check, hey, what do I need to adjust with my team here today? What do I need to do there? That, those kinds of things. So if you've stumbled upon this video, you've made it to the end of my rambling. I appreciate that. Come check us out on the Discord. It's a ton of fun. And we will see you out there. Catch you next time.